Let's start off with just a fun question. This is Melinda. She says, what's your favorite thing about Christmas?
Jesus.
See, that's the perfect answer.
That's the thing that we have to really keep in mind, is that that's what Christmas is about.
Yeah.
And to be honest, sometimes people end up frustrating themselves because they get into so many other things they're trying to do for Christmas,
Right.
that they forget that Jesus is the center of it, and he's the whole reason why we celebrate it.
Yeah. Well, that makes me think about all of the people who do get so wound up, so stressed at Christmas time because they're trying to make everything perfect.
Right.
And then it becomes a disappointment because it never meets those expectations.
Right.
You had family and children and ministry and all these things happening all at the same time. How did you balance everything and make sure you put the focus where it was meant to be at Christmas?
Well, I imagine that everybody's experience with their Christmas traditions or what they do at Christmas is different. But mine's a little bit of a journey, I guess. First of all, I grew up in a very dysfunctional home, so Christmas was not a special thing. My dad was really against gift buying. He always felt like people were just trying to get your money, so there was not a lot of gift buying that went on, and if I got anything for Christmas, it was probably one thing, to be honest. I can't even remember even getting anything. I found that as my family developed, that things have to always be changing. And I want to share that for people who, it's good to have traditions, but you can't make laws out of them. They can't become things, now we have to do this forever. For a long time, when my husband's mom was alive, and he has a lot of sisters and brothers, and they all had kids, and so there was a large family, and it was very important to her that we all be there on Christmas Eve. And so for years and years, we all went there on Christmas Eve. And then there was a midnight church service at the church that everybody went to, and so everybody stayed up. We tried to keep the kids awake or carry them asleep, and we'd go to the midnight church service and then get home around maybe 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And so we did that really until the Lord took her home. And by then, a lot of us had grown or growing children of our own, and we really wanted to have our own Christmases. So
That's a hard transition, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And then for a lot of years, I don't remember how many, everybody came to our house on Christmas Eve, and we started about 10 o'clock in the morning. There was a lot of gift giving and eating and more eating and laughing and talking, and they stayed however long they wanted to. As my kids got old enough to get married, I wanted to make sure that I didn't pressure them because they now had other responsibilities with their in-laws. I never wanted to pressure my kids and say, if you're not here on Christmas Eve because this has been our tradition, then
Right.
I'm going to be mad and upset. I think so many people do that to their kids, and it's just very unreasonable, especially considering that we're celebrating the birth of Christ, who tells us to walk in love and be kind. And so what we ended up doing by the time they were all married was we would still start at 10 o'clock in the morning, but we'd only go until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so they all had time to go home, get a little bit of rest, and then they would go to their in-laws on that night because they wanted to be in their own home on Christmas. Then after a while, we moved it to my daughter's house because they all were getting little kids, and her house was more kid-friendly, and they had toys and games, and we did that. Well, now this year, for the first time, we're having to change again because now we have grown grandchildren, some of which have to end up working on Christmas Eve. And so we're now doing our family celebration the Sunday before Christmas.
Yeah.
But my grown children come here sometime a week or two before Christmas, and we have a meal together, and I give them their gifts, and they give me mine, because to be honest, on Christmas Eve, there's so many kids, so many little kids, and everybody's unwrapping and throwing paper every which direction, that it wasn't really enjoyable for us to try to share our gifts. And so we might play a few games or do something like that. The main thing about Christmas is being together, but remembering not to make it so complicated that you get frustrated trying to have all your perfect meals and making sure you don't offend anybody. And A lot of people even go out and buy gifts that they don't even want to buy, and they go in debt to buy them, and that's not necessary either.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, that it's okay for traditions to change.
Right.
Our lives change, our families change. It's all right for what we love at Christmas to change as well, and there will be something else that we love.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people are feeling like, and it's so hard when something maybe is drastically changed. Maybe you've gone through a divorce or you've lost a loved one. But to know that in time, new traditions will come up that you will enjoy again.
I know part of Christmas traditions is baking and cooking and...
I thought I'd smell cookies when I came in today. But
Well, you must be imagining things, but I never did that.
Yeah, me either.
First of all, I was in ministry for most of these years, and I didn't have time. Even when we had Christmas Eve at my house, at mine and Dave's house, somebody else did the cooking, and they brought it with them.
Tell them what Dave said about your cookies.
Oh, I will.
Okay.
So Dave asked me what we were going to do on this show, and I said, well, they're going to ask me about what my traditions are. And he said, what are you going to tell them? I said, I'm going to tell them about all the cookies I bake and the pies and the turkey. And he said, are you going to tell them the cookies are invisible? And so I think even in that, I don't want to see people put pressure on themselves to be some certain kind of person at Christmas that they don't have the gifting or the desire to even do.
That is so freeing. That's really good.
So you don't have to bake cookies if you don't want to.
Thank you. Well, actually, when I did bake the cookies, nobody wanted to eat them anyway. So I learned that was not my thing.
It's just not my thing either. So
You mentioned your upbringing. Was those Christmases, especially early in, had to be very different and very difficult. Was there a time for you that Christmas changed? Was there a time for you that celebration became something that it never was before?
Well, when I was younger, Christmas, because of the way I was growing up, it wasn't really special to me, and I wasn't, my family was not a church-going family or a spiritual family at all. And so obviously when I got into my own relationship with Jesus and learned more, it became more special. But I think all of us have to remember what it's all about, because there's just so many other things that go on. People are just really busy at that time of the year. And I hear so many people say, I'm so glad the holidays are over. I mean, don't you hear that?
Yeah, you hear it all the time.
I'm so glad the holidays are over and we can get back to normal life. We don't have to let it be like that.
Yeah.
If we're going to celebrate Jesus' birth, then it needs to be a happy occasion, and it can't be if it becomes too complicated.
Right.
And I said something a minute ago about not buying gifts, going in debt to buy gifts.
Yeah.
I really want to encourage people along those lines, because there's nothing wrong if you're having a tough time financially on a certain year. There's nothing wrong with going to people that you would normally buy gifts for who might be expecting a gift to just say, I just want to let you know that we're a little tight on money this year, and so I'm not going to be able to buy gifts, but I love you, and the time will come when I can do it again. That's another pressure that people don't need. They don't need to put themselves under the pressure of doing that. But Jesus was the greatest gift. And so the reason we even give gifts to one another at Christmas is because he is the greatest gift that has ever been given.
Yeah.
And so even in giving gifts, we need to remember that. It's not about how much money you spend. It's really about the heart that you put in it and remembering why you do it and making sure that you don't get into family arguments and strife and have everybody angry. It should be a very happy, festive, joyous time of year where we keep Christ the center of it.
Yeah, I think that's such a great encouragement for everyone who's listening. We hope you enjoyed this teaching. To get more from Joyce, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing.